Hello and good morning to the IJ Andean 21 virtual event. My name is Bradley Cole. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome everybody for this virtual event that will take place over 2 days. For our first session, we'll be looking at the Peruvian market. And of course, this session will be approximately about an hour and a half, and will be gifted by a presentation by the Ministry of Economy for Peru, as well as a presentation from Proinvisión later. And Alejandro Prieto from Proinvisión will welcome Rafael and Minister Mendoza in just time. But before I do that, what we have is for this presentation is we have a interpretation feature as the presentation will be conducted in Spanish. And for those that are using the Zoom client, at the bottom of the screen, you will see the interpretation function. And during the presentation, if you select English for those that are non-bilingual, you'll be able to hear the presentation in English. For those that, of course, that are bilingual, this feature won't be needed. And I will caveat to say that I believe with the minister's schedules, there won't be time for questions and answers, but do feel free to put your questions in, because those questions may be in the scope for Proinvisión to answer in due course. So without further ado, I'll hand over to Alejandro Prieto from Proinvisión to introduce the session. And thank you very much for being here as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandro Prieto. I am the Director of Investor Services here in Proinversión. Welcome to this Unlocking Peru's Potential Through New Project Offerings and Infrastructure Ambitions webinar, which is part of IJ Andean 21. We will begin this session with a presentation of Peru's Minister of Economy, Mr. Waldo Mendoza, regarding Peru's economic situation and forecasts. Following this, the Executive Director of Proinversión, Mr. Rafael Gas, will present Peru's portfolio of public-private partnership projects. So without further ado, I leave you with Peru's Minister of Economy, Mr. Waldo Mendoza.
Muy buenos días con todos y todas. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad para que el Ministro de Economía exprese su visión sobre la situación de la economía peruana. Déjenme compartir con ustedes una presentación que resume el estado de la economía peruana antes de la pandemia y lo que esperamos que pase con esta economía en el futuro inmediato. Debo decir que el Perú, a fines del año 2019, se constituía como una de las economías más robustas en América Latina, tal como puede mostrarse en esta lámina donde se registran 4 variables macroeconómicas muy importantes. La deuda pública como porcentaje del Producto Bruto Interno era la más baja en América Latina. Las reservas internacionales del Banco Central de Reserva, como porcentaje del Producto Bruto Interno, era la más alta en América Latina. El déficit fiscal, uno de los más bajos en la región, y una inflación que desde hace ya 2 décadas bordea el 2% anual. Sin embargo, debemos reconocer que esta sobresaliente situación macroeconómica no ha ido a la par con el desarrollo de las instituciones, tal como podemos observar en esta lámina. En macroeconomía, en estabilidad macroeconómica, tenemos el más alto puntaje. Sin embargo, nuestras instituciones, nuestra infraestructura, nuestro capital humano y la capacidad de innovación y de adopción de nuevas tecnologías no ha ido a la par. Llegada la pandemia, Perú hizo uso de su fortaleza monetaria y fiscal casi como nadie en el mundo. Entre políticas monetarias, políticas fiscales, políticas monetarias y fiscales, políticas de liquidez para personas y familias, nuestro país usó un 20% del PBI para enfrentar los estragos que produjeron las políticas públicas que intentaron frenar la pandemia. El plan económico consistió en parte en la postergación o el alivio tributario para empresas y familias, gastos directos para solventar los costos de contener la epidemia, en particular los presupuestos para el Ministerio de Salud fueron los necesarios para enfrentar el problema médico. Utilizamos medidas que ofrecieron liquidez a las empresas para que éstas sobrevivan en medio de la pandemia, entre otros instrumentos. Cabe resaltar un instrumento muy creativo, muy potente y rápido denominado Reactiva Perú. Reactiva Perú fue una política monetaria y fiscal que incorporó en la economía casi 8 puntos del Producto Bruto Interno en poco más de 2 o 3 meses. Esta es una política donde el Banco Central ofrece a los bancos créditos a tasas de interés bajísimas, 0.5% anual en moneda local, para que estos bancos presten a las empresas a la tasa más baja posible. Para que los bancos puedan prestar a las empresas, el gobierno le otorgó una garantía, en algunos casos de hasta el 98%. De esta manera, los bancos pudieron colocar casi 8 puntos del Producto Bruto Interno en las empresas. Eso impidió una crisis de liquidez fuerte en las empresas y eso explica en gran medida la recuperación relativamente rápida de la economía peruana, tal como puede observarse en esta lámina. Abril fue nuestro peor momento, la economía, el PBI, se cayó en 39%, una de las caídas más grandes de la historia contemporánea. Sin embargo, esas caídas han sido cada vez menores y estamos terminando el año con caídas mucho menores y con perspectivas de que estas cifras negativas van a convertirse pronto en cifras positivas que auguran una recuperación de la economía peruana. La situación del empleo fue más dramática, evidentemente, que la del Producto Bruto Interno. El empleo en la capital del país, donde se concentra gran parte del empleo y del PBI, se cayó en 69% en el peor momento de la pandemia, abril del año pasado. Esas caídas siguen siendo sustantivas. La caída en diciembre ha sido todavía de 10%, que es una caída grande, monumental, pero felizmente mucho menor que el 69% de abril pasado. Y como tendencia, así como la del PBI, esperamos que estas cifras negativas se conviertan pronto en cifras positivas, de tal manera que el empleo empiece a recuperarse. Hay signos alentadores de que esta recuperación está viniendo fuerte y relativamente rápida. La inversión pública, un componente de la demanda con un efecto reactivador enorme, se cayó en 70% en los peores meses de la pandemia en abril del año pasado. Felizmente, desde octubre ha empezado a mostrar cifras positivas y a fines de año ya estamos con cifras de 2 dígitos. Esta tendencia debe mantenerse durante el año 2021 y es uno de los elementos reactivadores de este año. La inversión pública en el año 2021 debe crecer en alrededor del 20% y va a ser un elemento importante de la recuperación peruana. Otro indicador alentador es la producción de electricidad, que, como pueden ver en la lámina que se muestra hacia adelante, ya ha dejado de caer y, como en el caso de los indicadores anteriores, muestra una recuperación que debe consolidarse en este año, en los primeros meses de este año. Y en una perspectiva histórica, esta crisis de la COVID-19, felizmente, parece que va a ser, en términos macroeconómicos, más breve que las crisis anteriores. Nosotros hemos tenido grandes crisis en la historia. La Gran Depresión del año 29 nos afectó, pero la crisis reciente, más fuerte, más poderosa, más aguda, fue la estanflación de los años 88-96, que, como pueden verlo en la lámina, nos tomó 9 años recuperar. Entonces, en esta crisis de la COVID-19, nuestra expectativa es que la recuperación sea felizmente rápida, dado los signos alentadores que acabamos de registrar. De esta manera, para este año, según las proyecciones internacionales, Perú en este año tendría una de las recuperaciones más vigorosas en América Latina. Por supuesto, no estamos exentos de riesgos. El riesgo de la pandemia está todavía latente, lo estamos enfrentando con todas las medidas que están a nuestro alcance. El riesgo de las políticas inapropiadas de parte del legislativo también están presentes, la estamos enfrentando y muchas o algunas de ellas las estamos enfrentando a través del Tribunal Constitucional, quien nos está dando la razón para hacer respetar el precepto de que las iniciativas de gasto no están en manos del Congreso. Resumiendo, entonces, la economía peruana utilizó sus fortalezas para enfrentar de la mejor manera posible a la crisis económica provocada por la pandemia. Ese uso de instrumentos de hasta 20% del Producto Bruto Interno explica una recuperación peruana más rápida que la de los vecinos en América Latina. Esa recuperación esperemos que se consolide y para este año Perú será uno de los países que en corto tiempo recuperará casi todo lo que se perdió en este año, en el año complicadísimo del año 2020, donde la economía peruana se cayó en alrededor de 11.5 puntos con respecto al año 2019. En resumen, Perú, así como en 2019, en este año 2021, sigue siendo una economía con una de las inflaciones más bajas de la región, sigue siendo una economía con uno de los crecimientos esperados más altos de la región. Las reservas internacionales del Banco Central en la crisis han quedado prácticamente intactas, así que esperamos un resurgimiento sostenido de la recuperación macroeconómica y del restablecimiento del comportamiento macroeconómico sobresaliente que ha tenido este país en las últimas 3 décadas. Muchísimas gracias por ofrecerme esta oportunidad para comunicarme con ustedes. y para decirles que este es un país que ofrece el mejor ambiente para atraer y promover y atender las iniciativas de los inversionistas locales y internacionales. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza, for your participation. We will now see Rafael Ugaz, Executive Director of Proinversión.
Thank you, Minister Mendoza, for that great presentation. I'm really sorry we're not able to do this in person. I'll never forget the first time I attended an infrastructure journal conference in Lima. At that time, I wasn't living here, so I was visiting. It was about 10 years ago, and I do remember it was a great excuse for those interested in the country who were living overseas to spend time in Lima, have some great food, maybe pisco sour, and of course have meetings with some of the key stakeholders in the public sector and also in the private sector. So I'm sorry you're not able to do that this time. So that's the negative part. The positive side is that today I'm gonna give you some very good 20 or 40 or so good excuses or P3 projects that will give you a great excuse to stay put, stay close to us, and come to visit us as soon as you can, or as soon as you get your vaccines and things start settling down and more under control. So this is our, having these sessions is our second best option right now. On that regard, I want to thank the IJ Global for organizing this event and getting serious. It's clear that the COVID-19 is having a huge impact in our lives, in our country, and in the Latin America region overall. I would say that it was well explained by Minister Mendoza. But if anything, it is demonstrating that the need for infrastructure is still huge in Peru, and that there's a even higher sense of urgency to address the infrastructure gap. Therefore, we need to work harder to deliver more and better infrastructure services, and we need to do it. We need to do it faster, really. And to do that, we need to run more robust P3 procurement processes and track the best possible market players to design, build, operate, maintain, and finance good infrastructure in Peru. So today we want to give you a snapshot of some of the very exciting projects that we have in our portfolio and give you a taste of the P3 pipeline that we currently have and what we're developing for the future. I may not have enough time to expand on all the projects, but we would be happy to arrange one-on-one meetings with you to share more information and answer any questions that you may have. This is a quick reminder of Proinversión for those who are less familiar with the agency and the P3 framework. So Proinversión is a government P3 procurement agency. In Peru, we have been operating for almost 20 years now, sorry. And our main role is to promote private investment in infrastructure in Peru. Our core business is to structure P3 projects. Our traditional portfolio has been on power, highway, rail, airports, but more recently we're putting a special emphasis on social infrastructure like hospitals, schools, and water treatment and sewage. We've been doing water treatment and sewage in the past, but we have a particularly big package or pipeline of projects in that sector today. We have about 40 P3 projects, and 19 are more advanced stage, and about 18 are in a maturing phase. Here's, I guess, on your right part of the screen, there's a list of why we believe P3 are important tool. I think you all here know about the benefits of P3 in general, as a way of developing infrastructure, in addition to bringing innovation and technology, introducing innovation and technology through private sector investment, and attracting international players with best practices in other parts of the world in delivering infrastructure services. It allows to deliver good value for money through the lifetime of the asset. But I guess the key message to you is that why we believe in P3 in Peru. We still have a huge infrastructure gap to close, and from the perspective of the Peruvian government, we need to use every tool in the toolbox. And we'll still pursue some projects as public works, but we still need to continue using P3s. It's too much of a robust, powerful tool to ignore it. And it's part of the solution to address this infrastructure gap, and there's a strong support to continue with this in the short term and in the middle term. And moving to the next slide, this is a reminder of our system. I think it's important to show how the P3 development cycle works in Peru. The process is quite structured. We have 5 stages. At this point, we have the moving from planning to formulation to structuring to transaction and to contract execution once the P3 contract is awarded. We receive the first 2 steps, the planning and formulation. That's responsibility is led by the ministries, the Ministry of Energy and Mines, or Transportation, or the Ministry of Housing and Water and Sanitation, or some subnational government entities, like the regional governments or local governments. So they define their priorities, they align, they do a thorough work in identifying and justifying why these projects are needed. Once they go through some very important milestones and it gets approved, then it gets moves into structuring, right? And then Proinversión leads the phase, the structuring and transaction process, where it's basically the financial and legal structuring and tender process. We lead that process, but we still interact and validate the projects with the other multiple stakeholders that we have, including the Ministry of Economy and Finance, the regulator if there are tariffs involved, and eventually General Controller Office. But most importantly, with the market, right? We need to validate that whatever we're designing and the contracts that we're structuring are make sense. And on that regard, we need to receive feedback from the market players to make sure that we are able to run a competitive process, because our final objective is to get the best offer from the market to deliver most value to the country and to the users overall. Once the contract gets awarded, then it moves into execution, and then it gets the counterpart is the entity that works as a grantor, which could be a ministry, their regional government or the local government, right? And eventually there could be some role for the regulator if there are tariffs involved. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have a system, right? We have a structured process which allows to give more predictability. It could be a bit more time consuming at the beginning, but the intention is to have a more baked product, a more mature project when it hits the market, so we don't deal with delays later on to reach financial closing, during construction phase, or in operations and maintenance. And another tool that I think it's important to give more predictability and setting up the priorities of the country in terms of developing infrastructure has been the National Infrastructure Plan, which was launched by the government about a year and a half ago, closed where they identified about $100 billion in infrastructure to be delivered, and about a third of those, about $30 billion, to be delivered in the short to mid term. And I think it's worth stressing that 2/3 of that infrastructure is to be delivered as P3. So this is just to state the importance of the P3 as a mechanism to help close the infrastructure gap. This document, the National Infrastructure Plan, is sort of a living document, and it probably could be enhanced going forward, but it's a first step in the right direction to make explicit the priorities as a government in the short and middle term, right? So that gives a sense of where we're going to focus our attention. That doesn't mean that we may not work on some other initiatives, but it gives a first idea of where in which direction we're heading. This is a snapshot of the projects that we have, and some of very exciting projects that we have in our pipeline. And you can see on the right side of the screen, for 2021, we have about 19 projects worth about $6 billion in estimated investment, these are projects where we expect to reach an important milestone. This is what we call our mature portfolio. Our objective is to award about 11 projects worth $2.5 billion that these are public state initiatives. But we also have on the bottom right a group of unsolicited bids, and where we expect to declare of public interest in this year. Once we declare these projects that you see here of public interest, then we'll share the information with the market. We'll give 3 months time for any other party to express interest, and if during this 3-month period another entity or interested party express interest, then we will open the tender process. If nobody else has expressed interest, then it would be awarded to the party that presented the unsolicited bid. As you can see, we have a very diverse portfolio of projects. We have projects in energy, transportation, water, wastewater, treatment, hospitals, schools. And I want to call your attention to the fact that in each sector, we're not talking about one-offs. But for example, in the case of water and wastewater and sanitation, we have projects like Headwaters and Puerto Maldonado water treatment plants, which are already being tendered in the case of Puerto Maldonado. And then we have a group of public or unsolicited bids that are coming later on. So what I'm saying is that these are not just one-offs. There's a pipeline of projects that are coming afterwards, the ones that we are releasing to the market, or we just released to the market, and we expect to have further participation from the best players like you. So you should see this as a pipeline of projects, and if you pursue the first one, then you will be better positioned to chase the ones that are after. This is similar information to the one that I just showed, but just shown in a different way. So this is the pipeline of projects that we have in our right now in Preinversión. Each project is represented by a bubble, and the size represents the estimated investment in the project. The green and yellow bubbles are the ones that are in a more advanced stage and that we expect to reach an important milestone during 2021. The light blue bubbles on your right side, on the right side of the screen, are projects that are in a relatively earlier stage, that are maturing, but that I think they will reach an important milestone in 2022 and going and afterwards. And I think what is important to show here again is that there's a pipeline, there's a sequence, there's projects that are coming to the market, right? Those are the ones on the left, and as we move forward, we expect to bring more projects to the market. So here, just to give you an example, and I'll try to touch on some of this during the remaining minutes that we have. You'll see we have projects like the Huancayo-Huancavelica Railway that it's in transaction phase. The Cuarcentro, which is a school infrastructure, which is it's an unsolicited bid. We have the Lima Periferial Ring Road on Anillo del Periférico. We expect to declare of interest in this semester. The massive use of natural gas. So there's a sequence, and we're quite excited about the interest that we're getting from the market. Some of these are already closed the pre-qual, and it's exciting to hear that the market, even in these difficult times, we're getting attention from proponents. As last month we closed the project, the Subestación Chincha Nueva, Nazca Nueva, an energy project, transmission line or substations. And we have quite a good turnaround, more than 6 bids or qualified bidders presented. So we're very positive about the time that is coming. We know we've had a rough 2020. It was a difficult year for many of us and in many countries, but I think we have a bright future for 2021, and we are looking forward to see you joining for these projects. I'm gonna spend a little bit of time on these projects, on some of these, just to give you a taste. So first of all, we have the Ferrocarril Huancayo-Huancavelica. This is a brownfield project with capital investment of close to 260 million. It will benefit the towns of the Junín and Huancavelica regions on the journey between Huancayo and Huancavelica. This is going to be a 30-year contract. Is the first to incorporate an element of availability payment mechanism. Is a hybrid between RPI. Some of you may be more familiar with the RPI construction finance mechanisms that we have been using in the past, and the incorporation of availability payment mechanism. This is already in transaction phase. It's too advanced for many of you. We closed the pre-qual last December. We also have the Longitudinal de la Sierra 4th tranche. This project is about to be relaunched after some recent changes in the scope. This project is, we call it co-finance state initiative, but it really means that there's a government funded element in it. It's about 970 kilometers long. It includes the upgrade of a segment about 180 kilometers, and we expect to call for tender towards the third quarter of this year and targeting to award sometime in the second semester of 2022. The estimated investment for this project is about $700 million. We then have the masificación de gas natural de ciertas regiones. This project, the objective of this project is to bring natural, clean fuel to 7 towns or cities in 7 regions of the south part of the country. The concessionaire is going to develop the essential infrastructure to this, and is going to be responsible for designing, building, financing, operate and maintain the natural gas distribution systems through the pipeline network in these cities. This would benefit more than 110,000 households in the southern part of the country by bringing efficient and sustainable energy. The estimated investment of this project is about $200 million. We then have the transmission line from Puerto Maldonado to Iberia and the substation of Valle del Chira. This is an energy project. It's about $47 million investment. It's a self-financed state initiative. This is already in transaction phase. We called for tender last year, and we expect to have the final draft of the contract and awarded towards the second quarter of this year. In this same sector, we have the transmission line from Piura to the border with Ecuador. This is a close to $160 million investment. This is pretty much the interconnection between the Peruvian grid and the Ecuadorian power grids. I think it's going to be very important because it will allow the grids to connect, and there's some good synergy and complements between both the power, the generation capacity in both countries. We already called for tender for this project, and we are working towards awarding the project in the second quarter of this year. We also have the Bandas de Espectro Radioeléctrico, which is a telecom project. This project is the objective of this project is to award the right to run the 3 radioelectric bands, the 1750 to 1780 megahertz, and the 2150 to 2180 megahertz, and the 2300 to 2330 megahertz. The objective is to expand telecom coverage and bring greater data capacity, seeking to expand the use of 4G technology and pave the way to bring in 5G technology in Peru. The estimated investment for this project is $291 million, and it's a 20-year contract. We expect to call for tender between March and April of this year, and targeting to award it between July and August of 2021 as well. We then have the Coar Centro project, which is a high-performance school. Sorry, this is my mistake. This is a Parque, the Parque Industrial de Ancón. This is a real estate development project, which is gonna allow to develop an area that is located north of Lima. And the estimated investment for this project is about $750 million. It's it's well located. It's north of Lima and north of the Callao port, but south of a new port in Chancay, which is in development right now. So I would say it's strategically located for this to develop a real estate project like this, to bring logistic services and also industrial development. We just called for tender for this project, and we are receiving comments, and we expect to award the project towards mid this year. Okay, so now we do have the Coar Centro project. This is the high performance schools in the central region of Peru. It's this is an unsolicited bid presented to the Ministry of Education. The estimated investment is $66 million, and the term is 20 years. Right now, we are in the final process of declare this of interest. And as I mentioned earlier, once the project is declared of public interest, then it would open for third parties to express their interest to participate in the process. If that happens, then we'll open for tender. We'll start a tender process. If not, it gets awarded to the party that presented the unsolicited bid. We then have the Anillo Vial Periférico project, or Lima Ring Road, Peripheral Ring Road. This is an unsolicited bid. The estimated investment is about $2 billion. It's a well-needed infrastructure to interconnect the city of Lima with the Callao port. For those that have visited Lima in the past, you understand the need for a project like this. This project is in a very advanced structuring phase. We have already received comments from the Ministry of Transportation to the contract, so we're advanced in the process. We're receiving comments from the Ministry of Transportation, from the regulator. We're in the process of incorporating these comments into the draft of the contract, and we're working hard to declare this of interest in the coming months. We also have the two new hospitals for Salud located in the north part of the country, in Piura and Chimbote. As you can imagine, this infrastructure is particularly needed, and it's proved to be needed in the current circumstances. This project is these two hospitals involved are gonna bring 500 beds for more than, that are going to benefit about 900,000 people in the north part of Peru, which was particularly hit by the COVID-19. We are working to call for tenders in the second quarter of this year to award it later in the year. We also have the Puerto Maldonado water treatment plant. This is about a $55 million project. We already called for tender. We reached the pre-qual phase last week, and we have received interest from, I think, between 5 and 6 players. So we're very excited about the interest that this project has received, and we are working to award it in the second quarter of this year. We, as I mentioned, in addition to Puerto Maldonado water treatment plant, this is the first that we are awarding this of this project this year. And there's a package of 6 water treatment plants that are gonna be are being developed, and that some of these are unsolicited bids, and we expect to declare of interest later on. But my point is, we have this water treatment plant, and there are more to come. Water and sanitation has proved to be one of those sectors where we need to work harder to close the infrastructure gap, as COVID-19 has made clear. It's very much needed. In this same sector, we have the Obras de Cabecera project, or also known as headwaters in English. This is a fundamental project to be developed. This project is going to increase potable drinking water coverage for about 1 million people in Lima in the first phase, and about 1.5 million total during the life of the project when fully implemented. The estimated investment for this project is about $500 million. We are working with the Ministry of Housing, Construction, Water and Sanitation, and with the SEDAPAL to get to award it towards the third quarter of the second semester of this year. The term of this project, it is going to be a 3-year contract, and we're working hard to get this to the market as soon as possible, hopefully between the first and the second quarter of this year. We also have the Puerto Maldonado, the Huancayo water treatment plant. This is a $170 million co-finance unsolicited bid. We are working to declare of interest toward the second quarter of this year. Anyway, we have other projects that we would love to discuss with you. I hope this was able to give you a taste of what we have in our pipeline. We're very excited about the projects that we have on the works, and as you see, we have projects for the short term, mid-term, and we have others that are coming later on. And there are other aspects that we are working, and that we haven't showed here, but that we are working with the ministries, with the Ministry of Transportation, with the Ministry of Housing and Energy and Mines, that we are working to seed the next generation of P3 projects that to feed the pipeline and have a backlog of projects that is attractive to bring interest from players from local and international players. So anyway, thank you very much for this time, and I hope we can we at some point, as soon as things get better here and elsewhere, you are able to visit us, have one-on-one meetings face to face. In the meantime, we're available to have virtual sessions, and please reach out to us and we can arrange one-on-one meetings, at least virtually. So thank you very much, and please let us know any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rafael, and certainly share your sentiments there at the end about being able to do this face-to-face. And of course, thank you very much for a very illustrative presentation on the ambitions within these sectors. We do have a few questions for you, and just a reminder, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom client to post questions to Rafael, and we'll do our best with the time that we have. I think we have about half an hour left to go through these questions. So yes, please do use the Q&A function as we go through. But the first question that's come through from Javier Gracia is a question for Mr. Ugaz. There are complaints on the slowness of the execution of PPP tenders. Are you applying measures to address this?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think it's clear that we slow down a bit. I think there are a number of factors to explain that. I think maybe one first is that we have some changes in our framework. As I mentioned, we have a more stringent or robust process, which is maybe causing us to burn more hours on an earlier phase, and during this pre-investment phase. But at the same time, this is gonna cause less delays later on. We're making some adjustments, and we are strengthening our organization to address those issues, and to be better prepared. We are also incorporating so we're doing some changes to strengthen our side. We're also working, improving our dynamic and our routines with the other stakeholders or the other players that participate in the process, right? Talking about the ministries, the regulator, the Ministry of Economics and Finance. We're also bringing some good practices for best practices to have a better control or more fine management of the scales and the dynamics, and identifying critical path in how we need to navigate the development process from early stage to reaching the market. And also we are making some adjustments. We're looking, for example, to incorporate hire consultants to advisors to us, to Preinversión. We're looking to package some of these projects, like, for example, as I mentioned, we have a package of water treatment plants. Okay, so we're gonna look for some synergies to better to structure these processes and have an advisor that allows to get some economies of scale and lessons learned to get some feedback and improve our processes on our side. But we're also working with some of the ministries to strengthen their capacities. Like, for example, one initiative that we have with the Water and Sanitation Ministry is to engage a PMO to support the ministry in that earliest phases from what you can call pre-feasibility to feasibility, and so they can have support to the earlier phase, so projects get faster and in better quality when they reach Preinversión, and they can also support the ministry as they move into execution. So we're looking, as we have a more robust P3 system, we're also strengthening our institutional capabilities to respond to this new framework, right? And at the same time, I think, unfortunately, last year has been a difficult year for many of us. It clearly had an impact in our plans, but we're very optimistic about 2021. I think it gives us some time to prepare and have these pipeline of projects that we think is in good shape to be delivered in the short term.
Excellent, thank you. Another question here. Could you please comment on any initiatives to streamline the planning and formulation stages of PPP projects, considering that it takes a very long time for unsolicited proposals to get to the structuring phase, sometimes even several years?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a number of opportunities to improve the process. Some, I think, are more within our. I think we can have. We definitely we need to streamline the process, and there are some good ideas. We have been collecting some ideas, which we intend to put forward for consideration. I think there are others that has to do more with a better, I guess, clear division of responsibility between the actors But we're of course open to receive any comments and recommendations that the players may have. I think it's fair to acknowledge that there was a lot there were a number of unsolicited bids that were received, and maybe we were not prepared. We have been working, enhancing some the framework, but I think there still is room to improve to be able to actually deliver more infrastructure using this mechanism.
Excellent. Another question here. The Headwaters project is 5 or 6 years old. Since the last call, how certain is there that this project will be awarded this year? The question responds to the need for the bidders to prepare and allocate resources to prepare the best offer.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, as I mentioned in my presentation, we have an infrastructure plan which was launched about a year and a half ago. The Headwaters project is part of that plan, so it has to be developed. I mean it was clearly identified as one of the priorities of the government, and it's been validated it has been validated, and it's a fundamental part of the plan to deliver drinking water to the city of Lima. I think as a government, we cannot afford the luxury of not using that source of water. I mean, not many cities that that are like Lima, that are basically located in a desert, can afford losing the opportunity of using the sources like the one that Obras de Cabecera or Headwaters project is going to habilitate. So I think this is a fundamental project that is going to continue forward.
Excellent. Another question here. With so many projects being awarded simultaneously, do you think there will be enough financing?
I think there are two sides to this, right? The first one is what could, if there's an impact on the current circumstances of the COVID-19. We have been looking, and as soon as the COVID-19 triggered, we engaged and we asked our consultants and we reach out to the market participants to have a pulse of the market or what could be the impact. And while there was some concern in what are the terms that could be received or the financial terms, we do think that there's still enough liquidity out there, and there's still enough interest in finance, infrastructure, and P3 projects in general. We also talk with our peers in other parts of the region, and I'm sure, well, it would be interesting to see what happens in this event today and tomorrow. I will be interested to hear what are the thoughts, but we think there's still liquidity. I wouldn't think it's about financing capability. I do think that, of course, we need to be mindful about whether there's enough financing in local currency or in foreign currency, and I think that's something that we need to be mindful on some of the projects. But I'm sure we can sort that out, and we will definitely going to address that in the way we structure our projects.
Great. Another question here. When will the Piora and Chimbote Hospital be called for tender?
Well, as I mentioned, we are working on the draft of the contract. At this point, we're engaging with a player, with a Salud, with the Ministry of Economics and Finance. We expect to release the tender between March and April of this year, April approximately, and we're running as fast as possible with this project, which is crucial.
Great. And another one, when the DOI of the Anillo Vial shall be launched?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we're working right now. At this point, we are incorporating the comments that we have received from the regulator, from the Ministry of Transportation and Communications, and we expect to do it sometime hopefully in the second quarter of this year. That's our target right now.
Okay, and one on the power generation side. Any IP regarding solar, wind, or hydrogen?
We don't have them right now in our pipeline, but we do think there's something worth exploring. But we don't have them right now in our pipeline. I do think we do need to this is maybe some of an area worth exploring together with the Ministry of Energy and Mines, and see if there's something, if this can be encouraged to feed the pipeline and the backlog of projects. But my personal view is that there could be an opportunity to develop more of those, looking at the generation capacity that we have currently and on the works.
Okay, excellent. And I think that's what we conclude for the Q&A session as well. So Rafael, absolute pleasure to have you once again, and thank you very much for the presentation, answering those questions. Just as a reminder, is that this presentations, or both presentations, as well as this webinar, will be distributed in the post-event material. You'll be able to access a link of which you can view this presentation again. If there's any further information on the projects, please contact prieto@proinvision.gob.pe. I'm sure we'll include that email in our post-marketing messaging as well. But other than that, thank you very much to everyone to participate, and I'm very much looking forward to welcoming you tomorrow for our financing, power generation, and Chile discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. Have a great session.
Gobierno del Perú.